The unheeded prophecy. The grand assembly hall of the Confederation floated in the darkness between stars, a massive station that had witnessed 10,000 years of peaceful diplomacy. Inside its crystalline walls, representatives from 847 different civilizations gathered for their monthly congress. The air hummed with translation devices converting thousands of languages into comprehensible thought patterns. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where reason and logic had replaced warfare and conflict for millennia. Dr. Velnus of the Tarkelian species stood at the central podium, his 3 hearts beating rapidly beneath his chitinous exterior. His research team had spent 12 years observing a newly discovered species on a remote planet designated Terra 3. What he had learned during those years kept him awake through countless sleep cycles. Today he would present his findings to the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. The assembly coordinator, a floating entity of pure energy named Luminous, acknowledged his presence. The thousands of delegates turned their attention toward the small podium where Velnus stood. Some were curious, most were indifferent. They had heard countless reports about primitive species over the centuries. Very few ever proved interesting enough to warrant serious discussion. Velnus activated the holographic display system. The image of a blue and green planet materialized above him, rotating slowly in the simulated light of its yellow star. Terra 3 appeared unremarkable at first glance. Standard oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, abundant water, diverse ecosystem. Nothing unusual in the grand scheme of galactic biology. Honored delegates, Velnus began, his voice amplified across the enormous chamber. I come before you with urgent findings about a species that poses a significant future threat to our Confederation. They call themselves humans, and their potential for disruption cannot be overstated. A ripple of amused sounds echoed through the chamber. The delegate from Morpheus Prime, a being composed of liquid metal, spoke through the translation network. Dr. Velnus, forgive my skepticism, but we have catalogued over 2 million sentient species. What makes these humans worthy of our concern? Velnus had anticipated this reaction. He changed the holographic display to show various human settlements. Cities sprawled across continents. Vehicles moved along complex road systems, and primitive aircraft crossed the skies. Honored delegates, these humans have not yet achieved interstellar travel. They possess no knowledge of our existence. By all conventional measurements, they should be irrelevant to our concerns. Then why waste our time? Asked Chancellor Dremlock, a massive being whose species had been part of the Confederation for over 3,000 years. His 12 eyes regarded Velnus with barely concealed annoyance. Because conventional measurements do not apply to humans, Velnus replied firmly. Allow me to present my research. The holographic display shifted to show detailed biological scans of human physiology. Observe their physical characteristics. Humans are endurance specialists. Their bodies are designed for persistent hunting, a rare evolutionary strategy. They can maintain physical activity for extended periods that would incapacitate most predator species. Their cooling system through perspiration allows them to operate in extreme heat. Their skeletal structure, while appearing fragile, is remarkably resilient to damage. A delegate from the Aquarian Collective, speaking through water-filled translation tubes, interjected, many species possess impressive physical attributes. The Corthians can survive in vacuum. The granites can withstand extreme pressure. Physical capability alone is not threatening. Velnus nodded. You are correct. Physical attributes are not the concern. It is their psychological profile that demands our attention. He changed the display again, this time showing human history. Images of ancient civilizations, technological development, and social evolution appeared in rapid succession. Humans developed tool use approximately 2 million years ago. They achieved agriculture 10,000 years ago. But observe what has happened in just the last 300 years. The display accelerated, showing the Industrial Revolution, the Information Age, space exploration, and nuclear technology. From horse-drawn carriages to splitting the atom in less than 2 centuries. From first powered flight to landing on their moon in 60 years. Their rate of technological advancement exceeds any species in our database by a factor of 15. Now the chamber grew quieter. Several delegates leaned forward, interest kindling in their various sensory organs. Velnus pressed his advantage. But technology alone is not what concerns me most. It is their psychological resilience and social bonding that makes them truly dangerous. The holographic display showed human soldiers in various historical conflicts. Humans have engaged in continuous warfare throughout their recorded history. They fight for resources, for territory, for ideology, for religion, and for abstract concepts like freedom and justice. But observe how they fight. The display showed soldiers carrying wounded comrades under fire, civilians protecting strangers during disasters, and rescue workers running toward danger instead of away from it. Humans possess something we rarely encounter in sentient species. They bond not just with their own kind, but with their ideas. They will sacrifice themselves for concepts. They will die protecting strangers. They will fight against impossible odds because they believe in something greater than their own survival. Dr. Wellness paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembly. I have studied their literature, their music, their art. Humans have a concept they call hope. It is not passive wishful thinking. It is active defiance against despair. When faced with extinction, they fight harder. When told something is impossible, they attempt it anyway. When given the choice between submission and death, they choose death and take their enemies with them. The display showed various human achievements: medical advances, space exploration, artistic masterpieces, and scientific discoveries. They have survived ice ages, plagues that killed half their population, world wars, and natural disasters that would have destroyed most civilizations. Each time they recover. Each time they grow stronger. Each time they learn and adapt. Chancellor Dremlock stirred on his platform. Dr. Wellness, you paint a dramatic picture. But these humans are confined to one planet. They have no faster-than-light travel. They have no energy shields. They have no quantum computing. By the time they reach the stars, they will encounter our Confederation. We will integrate them peacefully, as we have done with countless species before. Wellness felt his heart sink. They were not understanding the danger. Chancellor, that is precisely my concern. What if they refuse integration? What if they view our Confederation not as a partnership but as an attempt at domination? I have studied human psychology extensively. They have a deep-seated resistance to external control. Throughout their history, every attempt at empire, at totalitarian rule, has eventually collapsed because humans will not accept subjugation. He changed the display one final time, showing various human rebellions and revolutions throughout history. They overthrew kings who claimed divine right to rule. They fought wars of independence against superior military powers and won. They resisted occupations that lasted generations. This is not a species that will peacefully accept the authority of the Confederation simply because we are more advanced. A new voice entered the conversation. High Magistrate Queller, one of the oldest and most respected members of the Confederation, spoke for the first time. Her species, the Eternal Ones, had existed for over 50,000 years. Her words carried weight that few could match. Dr. Wellness, I have listened to your presentation with great interest. Your research is thorough, your observations are astute, but I must ask, what do you propose we do? Should we quarantine the species? Should we prevent their development? Should we destroy them before they become a threat? Wellness felt the attention of the entire assembly focus on him. This was the moment that would determine everything. Honored Magistrate, I propose that we establish careful diplomatic protocols. When we make first contact with humans, we must approach them as equals, not as primitives to be controlled. We must respect their autonomy and their right to self-determination. If we treat them as inferiors, if we attempt to dominate or subjugate them, we will create an enemy unlike any we have faced before. The magistrate considered this. You suggest we treat a pre-spaceflight civilization as equals to species that have mastered interstellar travel for millennia? This goes against every protocol of the Confederation. Yes, Wellness said firmly, because the alternative is war. And I guarantee you, a war with humans will cost us more than we can imagine. They do not have our technology now, but they will. They do not have our numbers now, but they will find ways to compensate. What they have now is determination, adaptability, and an absolute refusal to surrender. Those qualities do not require advanced technology to be dangerous. Chancellor Dremlock laughed, a sound like grinding stones. Dr. Wellness, you are asking us to fear a species that cannot even leave their own solar system. You are asking us to change millennia of diplomatic protocol because of hypothetical threats. This is paranoia, not science. Other delegates murmured their agreement. The initial interest in Wellness's presentation was fading. replaced by the comfortable certainty that the Confederation's superiority was unquestionable. They had maintained peace across 847 civilizations for 10,000 years. What could one primitive species possibly do to threaten that? Wellness made one last attempt. I am not asking you to fear them. I am asking you to respect them. There is a human saying I encountered in my research: do not mistake kindness for weakness. Humans appear vulnerable because they are not yet technologically advanced. But vulnerability and weakness are not the same thing. A cornered animal is vulnerable, but it is also the most dangerous. High Magistrate Queller raised her hand, calling for silence. Dr. Wellness has presented his findings. Now we must vote. The question before the Assembly is whether to designate the human species of Terra 3 as a potential threat requiring special diplomatic protocols. All in favor? Wellness watched as the voting system registered responses from across the chamber. His hope dwindled as the numbers appeared. 43 delegates voted in favor. 804 voted against. The decision was overwhelming and crushing. The motion is denied, Magistrate Queller announced. The human species will be classified as non-threatening primitives under standard observation protocols. First contact will follow conventional procedures when they achieve interstellar capability. Dr. Wellness, your research will be entered into the Confederation archives for future reference. Wellness bowed, accepting the decision even though every instinct screamed that it was wrong. As he left the podium, he passed by the data archive terminal. He uploaded his complete research, every observation, every analysis, every warning. He coded it with priority tags and cross-references to human psychology, military capability, and diplomatic recommendations. Perhaps someday, someone would read it. Perhaps someday, when it was too late to avoid conflict, someone would understand that he had tried to prevent disaster. He took one last look at the Grand Assembly Hall, at the representatives of 847 civilizations who believed themselves untouchable. They had maintained peace for so long that they had forgotten what war truly meant. As Wellness departed the station, he whispered a human phrase he had learned during his research. Pride comes before the fall. The Confederation had just made the greatest mistake in its 10,000-year history. They had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. But Wellness knew better. He had studied them. He had watched them. He had learned their history. Humanity was not irrelevant. Humanity was inevitable, and when they finally reached the stars, the galaxy would never be the same. 50 years passed. Dr. Wellness's warning gathered digital dust in the archives, flagged as low priority, reviewed by no one of importance. The Confederation continued its peaceful expansion, integrating new species, mediating disputes, and maintaining order across thousands of star systems. Nobody noticed when a small mining corporation encountered an unregistered vessel at the edge of Confederation space. Nobody paid attention when that corporation decided to assert territorial rights over a system that contained a primitive species. Nobody realized that the vessel they encountered was humanity's first interstellar exploration ship. The mining corporation's name was VexCorp Industries. Their captain, an aggressive Corthian named Thrak, viewed humans the way most Confederation species viewed primitives, with a mixture of contempt and indifference. When the human ship refused to leave what Thrak considered VexCorp territory, he did not report to Confederation authorities. He did not attempt diplomatic contact. He simply opened fire. The human ship, named the Pioneer, was destroyed in seconds. All 47 crew members died instantly, vaporized by weapons they never knew existed. Thrak filed a routine report about clearing unauthorized vessels from company mining operations. The incident was recorded, processed, and forgotten within hours. But the Pioneer had sent one final transmission before its destruction. A data burst containing sensor readings, tactical information, and a distress call that reached Terra 3 4 weeks later. When humanity learned that their first interstellar mission had been destroyed without warning, without communication, without mercy, something fundamental changed in human consciousness. The Confederation had just made its second mistake. The first was ignoring Dr. Wellness's warning. The second was teaching humanity that the galaxy was not a place of peaceful exploration and diplomatic exchange. It was a place where survival required strength, where weakness invited destruction, and where those who wanted peace had to prepare for war. On Terra 3, the United Human Council convened an emergency session. The debate lasted for 72 hours. Some argued for caution, for attempting diplomatic contact through proper channels. Others argued for isolation, for staying within their solar system until they were stronger. But the majority reached a different conclusion. Humanity had reached the stars only to discover they were not alone. They had extended their hand in friendship, only to have it burned away by weapons fire. Now they understood the true nature of galactic civilization. Now they knew what they had to do. The vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity would not retreat. Humanity would not hide. Humanity would prepare. And if the galaxy wanted war, then by every god humanity had ever imagined, they would give them war. In the Confederation archives, Dr. Velness's warning remained unread. The timer he had embedded in the file ticked toward 0. When it reached its programmed date, it would automatically escalate to priority status and force review by senior leadership. But that date was still 5 years away, and in 5 years it would be far too late to stop what was coming. The galaxy slept peacefully, confident in its superiority, comfortable in its power, and completely unaware that humanity had just declared silent war on every civilization that thought them primitive, weak, or irrelevant. Dr. Velness's prophecy was about to come true, and the Confederation would learn at terrible cost that some warnings should never be ignored. The reckoning 5 years had passed since the destruction of the Pioneer, and the galaxy remained blissfully unaware of the storm gathering at the edge of Confederation space. The Grand Assembly continued its routine sessions, mediating trade disputes and welcoming new member species. Peace had reigned for so long that the concept of large-scale conflict seemed like ancient history, a relic from barbaric times long forgotten. In a forgotten corner of the Confederation archives, Dr. Velness's warning finally triggered its automated escalation protocol. The file moved from low-priority storage to the urgent review queue, flagged for immediate attention by senior leadership. But the message arrived in the inbox of a junior administrator named Kelvin, a young Tarkelian who had only held his position for 3 months. Kelvin opened the file. Scrolling through page after page of Dr. Velness's research on humans, he read about their endurance, their technological advancement, their psychological resilience. It all seemed rather dramatic and overblown. The file was 55 years old, written by a researcher who had been dead for over a decade. Surely if this were truly urgent, someone would have acted on it years ago. Kelvin tagged the file as reviewed and moved it back to standard archives. He had 70 other reports to process that day, and most of them dealt with current situations rather than half-century-old speculation about a primitive species. The warning that might have saved thousands of lives was dismissed once again, this time not through malice or arrogance, but through simple bureaucratic indifference. Meanwhile, at the edge of Confederation space, Commander Vectress of the Confederation Border Patrol was investigating unusual sensor readings. His ship, the Vigilant Guardian, had detected anomalous energy signatures in a sector that should have been empty. As his vessel approached the coordinates, what he saw made all 6 of his eyes widen in disbelief. A massive structure floated in the void, clearly artificial, but unlike any design in Confederation records. It was angular and brutal in its efficiency, covered in sensor arrays and weapon emplacements. But what truly shocked Vectress was the symbol painted across its hull, a blue and green planet encircled by a white orbital ring. The same planet from Dr. Velness's archived report. Terra 3. The humans had reached the stars. Vectress immediately opened communication channels. Unidentified station, this is Commander Vectress of the Confederation Border Patrol. You are in violation of territorial space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. The response came in clear, unaccented Confederation standard. Commander Vectress, this is Fortress Station Liberty of the Terran Defense Network. You are correct. We are in your space. We have been in your space for the past 4 years, and you are just now noticing. The implications of that statement sent a chill through Vectress's nervous system. 4 years? Impossible. The Confederation had the most advanced sensor networks in the galaxy. Nothing could hide from their detection systems for 4 years. You claim to have evaded our sensors for 4 years? That is not possible. It was not only possible, it was easy. The human voice replied. Your sensor networks scan for energy signatures matching known propulsion systems. We designed our ships to use different signatures. Your automated systems categorized us as stellar phenomena, natural radiation, or sensor errors. You never looked for us because you never imagined we existed. Vectress felt his confidence wavering. The Confederation has maintained the most advanced technology in the galaxy for 10,000 years. How could a primitive species develop superior stealth capabilities in such a short time? Because we are not primitive, Commander. We are motivated. There is a difference. The communication channel shifted to show a visual feed. A human woman appeared on the screen, wearing a military uniform covered in insignia Vectress did not recognize. Her eyes were hard, her expression cold. I am Admiral Cassandra Reeves of the Terran Defense Fleet, and we need to have a conversation about the murder of 47 human explorers 5 years ago. The mention of that incident triggered a memory search in Vectress's database. He found the report filed by VexCorp Industries classified as routine corporate security. That incident involved unauthorized vessels in commercial mining territory. Standard protocols were followed. Standard protocols, Admiral Reeves repeated, her voice dripping with contempt. You destroyed a peaceful exploration vessel without warning, without communication, without even attempting to verify whether it posed a threat. You murdered 47 scientists whose only crime was exploring a region of space you claim to own, and you call that standard protocol. Vectress felt defensive anger rising. The Confederation has maintained order across 847 civilizations for millennia. Our protocols exist to prevent chaos and ensure safety. Your vessel was in restricted space. Restricted by whose authority? Reeves demanded. Did humanity ever agree to Confederation territorial claims? Did anyone ask us if we consented to your jurisdiction? You assumed authority over our expansion simply because you got here first. That is not law, Commander. That is imperialism. You are one species, Vectress said, trying to reassert control of the conversation. The Confederation represents 847 civilizations. You cannot expect us to negotiate territorial rights with every primitive species we encounter. And there it is, Reeves said quietly. Primitive. You keep using that word. It does not mean what you think it means. Primitive does not mean weak. It does not mean stupid. It does not mean we will accept your authority without question. She leaned closer to the camera. Let me tell you what we have been doing for the past 5 years while you dismissed us as irrelevant. The display behind Reeves changed, showing images of massive construction projects. Space stations, shipyards, weapon platforms, all bearing the symbol of the blue and green planet. We converted our entire civilization to a war economy. Every resource, every mind, every effort focused on one goal, ensuring that what happened to the Pioneer never happens again. We studied your technology through long-range observation. We analyzed your tactics through historical records we accessed from your public databases. And we designed systems specifically to counter your advantages. Vectress felt genuine fear beginning to override his training. You cannot seriously be suggesting war with the Confederation. Our military numbers in the millions of vessels. Our technology has been refined over millennia. You would be destroyed, perhaps, Reeves acknowledged. But we would take a significant portion of your fleet with us. And more importantly, we would inspire every other species you have subjugated to question your authority. How many of your 847 civilizations joined willingly, Commander? How many were conquered and integrated? How many are waiting for someone to demonstrate that the Confederation can be challenged? The question struck at the heart of Confederation stability. The official history spoke of peaceful integration, but Vectress knew the truth. Many species had resisted. Some had fought. All had eventually submitted to superior force. But submission born from fear is not the same as loyalty. If humanity demonstrated that the Confederation could be hurt, could be made to bleed, the political consequences would be catastrophic. What do you want? Vectress asked, abandoning his aggressive posture. This conversation had moved far beyond his authority to handle. What we want is simple, Reeves replied. We want recognition of human sovereignty over our home system and our colonial territories. We want formal apology for the destruction of the Pioneer. We want the individuals responsible for that attack brought to justice. And we want a guarantee that humanity will be treated as an independent nation, not as primitives to be assimilated when convenient. I do not have the authority to negotiate such terms, Vectress admitted. These demands would require approval from the High Council. Then contact the High Council, Reeves said. You have 72 hours to deliver a formal response. If we do not receive satisfactory acknowledgement of our demands, we will take action. What kind of action? Vectress demanded, though he dreaded the answer. The kind that will make the entire galaxy understand that humanity is not asking for permission to exist. We are informing you of reality. Either you accept it peacefully or we make it impossible to ignore. The communication channel closed, leaving Vectress staring at the massive fortress station that had somehow existed in Confederation space for 4 years without being detected. He immediately sent a priority alert to Confederation Command, flagging the situation as a potential crisis. Within hours, the report reached the desk of Chancellor Dremlock, the same leader who had dismissed Dr. Velness's warning 55 years earlier. Dremlock read the report with growing disbelief and anger. How dare these primitives make demands? How dare they threaten the Confederation? He convened an emergency session of the High Council, presenting the situation as an act of aggression, requiring immediate military response. These humans have violated our space, constructed military installations without permission, and issued ultimatums as if they possess any authority to negotiate with us. This cannot be tolerated. We must respond with overwhelming force to remind them of their place. High Magistrate Queller, now ancient even by her species' standards, requested access to all information regarding humans. Her staff conducted a comprehensive search, and within hours, they discovered Dr. Velness's archived report. As she read through the 55-year-old warning, her expression grew grave. "Chancellor Dremlock," she said quietly, "I suggest you read this before committing to military action." She transferred Dr. Velness's complete research to his terminal. Dremlock skimmed through it impatiently, seeing only the paranoid rambling of an overcautious researcher. This changes nothing. One researcher's opinion from over half a century ago does not alter current reality. These humans have committed acts of hostility against the Confederation. They must be dealt with decisively. The researcher predicted exactly this scenario, Queller pointed out. He warned that if we approached humans as conquerors, they would resist with unprecedented ferocity. He recommended treating them as equals. Perhaps we should consider his advice before starting a war. "We are not starting a war," Dremlock insisted. "We are maintaining order. There is a difference." He turned to General Korvax, the current head of Confederation military forces. "General, dispatch a battle fleet to the human fortress station. Surround it, demonstrate our superior numbers, and force them to surrender. Use minimal force if possible, but destroy the station if they refuse to comply." General Korvax saluted and left to execute the order. Within 18 hours, a fleet of 200 Confederation warships arrived at Fortress Station Liberty. They surrounded the human installation in a perfect tactical formation, weapons charged and shields active. General Korvax himself commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. "Human installation," he broadcast across all frequencies. "You are surrounded by superior forces. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have 10 minutes to comply." The response came from Admiral Reeves, her image appearing on every Confederation ship's communication screen simultaneously. "General Korvax, thank you for bringing exactly 200 ships. That was very predictable of you. Before you make any decisions you will regret, I suggest you scan the surrounding space very carefully. Not for ships, for what we call smart mines." Korvax frowned and ordered comprehensive sensor sweeps. His tactical officer paled as the results came in. "General, we are detecting thousands of small objects surrounding our fleet. They were dormant, matching the thermal signature of space debris." "They are now activating. How many?" Korvax demanded. "Over 15,000, sir. They are moving into attack positions. Each one appears to be armed with fusion warheads." Korvax felt his confidence evaporate. 15,000 mines against 200 ships. Even with shields, the mathematics were brutal. "You mined this entire sector?" "We mined this entire region of space," Reeves corrected. "Over the past 4 years, while you were ignoring us, we seeded defensive positions throughout the border territories. You are currently sitting in the middle of a very large trap. Now, would you like to discuss our demands peacefully? Or would you prefer to test whether your shields can withstand sustained nuclear bombardment?" Korvax looked at his tactical displays. His fleet was indeed trapped. If fighting began, he might destroy the human fortress station, but he would lose most of his fleet in the process. The political fallout would be devastating. The mighty Confederation military, bloodied by a supposedly primitive species, every subjugated civilization would see it and take hope. "Stand down," he ordered his fleet. Then to Reeves. Admiral, I am requesting a ceasefire to allow for diplomatic negotiations. Request granted, Reeves replied. I am transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting location. I suggest you bring someone with actual authority to negotiate. In general, I recommend you review the archived reports of Dr. Velness. He understood us better than any of you. Perhaps you should have listened to him 55 years ago. As Korvax withdrew his fleet to regroup, emergency messages flooded Confederation Command. The situation had escalated beyond anyone's expectations. These humans, dismissed as primitives, had outmaneuvered the Confederation's finest military minds. They had been preparing for years while the galaxy slept, and now they had demonstrated something that shocked every military analyst who reviewed the tactical data. Humanity could fight the Confederation and hurt it badly. Within days, the story spread across all 847 civilizations. The invincible Confederation had been forced to retreat by a species barely a century into space travel. The psychological impact was profound. If humans could challenge the Confederation successfully, what did that mean for the supposed superiority of Confederation civilization? How many other species could do the same if they found the courage to try? High Magistrate Queller read Dr. Velness's report again, this time understanding every word with crystal clarity. The researcher had been right about everything. Humans were not primitives to be controlled. They were a force of nature, adaptive and relentless, driven by concepts like freedom and dignity that transcended technological advantage. The Confederation had made the mistake of confusing advancement with wisdom, technology with superiority. The emergency High Council session that followed was unlike any in recorded history. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Confederation faced a choice: adapt or face the consequences of their arrogance. The debate raged for days, but ultimately survival instinct overcame pride. If humanity had been preparing for 5 years and had achieved this level of capability, what would they be capable of in 10 years? 2050? The final vote was narrow but decisive. The Confederation would recognize human sovereignty. They would apologize for the destruction of the pioneer. They would establish formal diplomatic relations, treating humanity as an independent nation. It was humiliating, unprecedented, and absolutely necessary. When the announcement was made public, shockwaves rippled across the galaxy. The Confederation, the mighty alliance that had ruled unchallenged for millennia, had been forced to negotiate as equals with a species they had dismissed as primitive only years earlier. Some member civilizations celebrated, seeing hope for their own autonomy. Others worried about the collapse of the order that had maintained peace for so long. Admiral Reeves received the formal apology and recognition in a ceremony broadcast across both human and Confederation space. As she accepted the documents that granted humanity equal status among galactic civilizations, she spoke words that would be quoted for generations to come. The Confederation made 2 critical mistakes. First, they assumed that technology equates to superiority. It does not. Intelligence, determination, and will can overcome technological disadvantages. Second, they assumed that because we were young as a spacefaring species, we were naive. They forgot that youth does not mean weakness. It means hunger. It means ambition. It means we have nothing to lose and everything to prove. She paused, looking directly at the Confederation representatives. Dr. Velness tried to warn you 55 years ago. He understood what you refused to see. Humanity does not accept subjugation. We do not bow to authority simply because it claims superiority. We believe in freedom, in self-determination, in the right of every sentient being to choose their own path. These are not primitive concepts. They are fundamental truths that your civilization forgot somewhere in its 10,000 years of unchallenged power. The ceremony ended, and humanity took its place among the stars not as subjects but as equals. The galaxy would never be the same. The Confederation's absolute authority had been challenged and found wanting. Other species began to question, to demand, to resist. The age of unquestioned dominance was over. In the archives, Dr. Velness's report was finally given the attention it deserved. It was studied, analyzed, and incorporated into Confederation diplomatic training. Future generations would learn from it, understanding that dismissing a species based on technological level was a dangerous form of arrogance. The researcher who had been ignored in life became a prophet honored in death. Humanity expanded carefully into the galaxy, always mindful of the lessons they had learned. They built alliances based on mutual respect rather than dominance. They shared their technology and learned from others. They proved that a young species could bring fresh perspectives, new ideas, and innovative solutions to problems that older civilizations had considered unsolvable. And they never forgot the 47 crew members of the Pioneer, whose deaths had awakened humanity to the harsh realities of galactic politics. Memorial services were held annually, reminding each new generation that freedom is not given freely. It must be defended, earned, and sometimes paid for in blood. The Confederation adapted slowly and painfully to a new reality where multiple powers shared the galaxy. It was messy, complicated, and frequently frustrating, but it was also more dynamic, more creative, and ultimately more stable than the old order of unquestioned authority. Dr. Velness's warning had been unheeded, but his legacy shaped the future of galactic civilization. The galaxy had learned that some species should never be underestimated, and that warnings ignored often become prophecies fulfilled.